Hi everyone, welcome back to Sketch Lab for Kids. Today we're diving into something sweet and creative, how to paint a super cute ice cream cone. This step-by-step tutorial is perfect for beginners and anyone who loves Kawaii style art. We'll be using vibrant golden acrylic paints for a colorful base and Posca markers for fun details that really bring it to life. First, we'll start by creating a drip effect with Posca markers using 3 values. So I'm going to establish the ground with acrylic paint. I'm using golden fluid acrylics, titanium white, and carbon black. When selecting a background color, you might want to think about contrast. Contrast is when artists use opposite things together to make their artwork readable. So I'm going to be demonstrating the drip effect with Posca paint markers. I'm going to be using 3 values. My 3 values I'm using are red, dark red, and white. I'm going to go in and draw in with the red marker the drips, then I'm going to fill them in. I'm going to put the light source on the left-hand side. So on the left-hand side of this drip at the very bottom, I'm going to add a highlight with the white Posca paint marker. I am going to use 2 different types of paint markers. One's the 5M and one's the 3M. So the 3M is a thinner tip, and I'm going to create this long vertical line here on the left-hand side. So once again, that's going to tint. Tint means it's going to make it lighter. It's going to add a highlight. So now it looks like the light source is reflecting off the left-hand side. Now, with the third value, I'm going to then use the dark red. That's going to build up the shadows. So if the light source is on the left, the shadows are going to go on the right. So once again in review, I'm going in, filling in with the red first, then going in with the white, adding in the highlights on the left-hand side, and then now with the dark red, I'm adding in those shadows. See at the bottom of the drip and in the curve that curves up. We're just going to repeat the same process with all of our colors today. So one of the benefits of Posca paint markers is you can get these nice clean lines, and it comes in different values. Very simple to use. So I'm using the bright yellow, put in the base color, white Posca paint marker for the highlights, and then now I'm going to go in with orange and a little bit of the red to create the shadows on the orange. For yellow, I'm going in with yellow, then I'll have white for the highlights, and then I have ochre, and ochre is the dark yellow. So a range of value of one color is called a monochromatic color scheme, and if you get to part 3 of the series, I'm going to be using a monochromatic color scheme to color in our Kawaii style ice cream cone. I'm starting with apple green, which is a brighter green, and then I'm going in with just a regular green. This here we have the robin green and emerald green will be our 2 colors on the turquoise. In part 3, I'm going to be using Golden's fluid acrylics, which are amazing, and I'm also going to be using the color swatches from their new virtual color mixer. Makes it very easy to get color mixes, and you'll be amazed, even a small bottle of golden acrylics can go a long way. So on this one I have the light blue, white, and I'm going with the dark blue. I'm now using lavender, white, and Prussian blue. And on this last one I'm going to be using pink to draw on the drips, and to fill them in I'll be using fuchsia for the shadows, and I also have the white for the highlights. So I'm going to be creating a series of acrylic paintings, and all of them are going to be focusing on creating different effects in the backgrounds using Posca paint markers. And we're going to keep revisiting this idea of using 3 values, right, to create a monochromatic color scheme. And you're going to notice it's going to bring your paintings to life. It's going to make them look 3-dimensional. So I have 2 end cards at the end of this video, one that'll take you to another Posca paint marker effect, and the other one will take you to part 2, how to draw this cute ice cream cone. Welcome back to Sketch Lab for Kids. Thanks for watching. In part 1, we explored creating
video.
a dynamic drip effect, and today we're going to keep the fun going with part 2, how to draw a super cute ice cream cone. So let's grab your sketch pads and your favorite markers, and let's get started on this sweet design. Kawaii style characters are known for their rounded edges and simple shapes. On the left I have a safety compass, on the right circle template. These are tools that can be used, like I said, to assist in creating these basic shapes and these rounded edges. So I'm going to go ahead and start here with the cone, so drawing that diagonal line. And we are going to have a little bit of overlapping with some of these drips. So I'm going to add a little drip here on the right hand side. And this is going to be, like I said, going over the cone on the right hand side. I'm going to curve a line down the base of this cone. Once again, that's a characteristic of Kawaii style characters: rounded edges, rounded corners. So I'm drawing a line that curves down, and in the middle we're going to have a drip that we're going to add, and this is going to create overlapping, and that is a technique to create space. So artists, we can make a flat piece of paper appear to be three-dimensional by using overlapping. Once again, a line that curves to the right. And now we're going to have another line that curves to the right. So I'm going to go ahead and curve a line down. And then once again, in the center of this, we are going to have a drip. I'm now going to go ahead and curve a line to the left. And we're going to finish it off with one more line that curves to the left. For the head of our ice cream cone, I'm going to go ahead and curve a line to the left. Okay, I'm going to work on the top now, and I'm going to curve a line to the left. I'm going to draw a little circle for the cherry and add the stem. On the right hand side now, I'm just going to be curving a line to the right, a small one, and then another line that curves to the right to finish off the head. So once again, these circle templates do come in handy to create these simple shapes and rounded edges, but especially for these big expressive eyes, get these circles drawn, especially this 2 white dots inside the eye as well. You're going to find that the circle templates will really help you out, especially with the expressions on these characters. So I want you to know a couple things about these expressions. Is one, these eyes are relatively large compared to the face, and there are also highlights inside the eyes. These 2 white dots emphasize the cuteness of the character. I'm going to add 2 eyelashes. One's going to be a little bit more rectangular and one's going to be more rounded like a oval. So you notice details are often kept to a minimum when creating these expressions, and it keeps the focus on the overall charm rather than complexity. Hi friends, today we're going to have fun painting with just one color family. It's called a monochromatic color scheme. This means we're going to use a range value of one color. I'm using golden fluid acrylic paints because they're super smooth and easy to work with. Plus, they have a virtual color mixer you can use online to see how the colors look before you start. This is a simple and fun way to learn painting, and it's perfect for anyone who's trying to take a simplified approach to adding depth and dimension to your painting. So once again, I'm using golden fluid acrylic paint, and with primary magenta, I'm creating a tint. So you can see I'm down to the 1 part red to 10 parts white, and I'm establishing a light base color first. One tip with the paintbrush is when I am painting these edges, you're going to see how I slow down and then I just draw a line with my paintbrush. So when I'm going around my edges, I don't want to keep lifting up the paintbrush. I just want to set the paintbrush down on the paper, and just like I would draw a line with a pencil, just drawing a line with my paintbrush. So you get nice clean edges. So you'll also notice by using our lightest color first, we're creating a tint, which increases the opacity of the paint. So as you can see, we can't really see any of this background showing through that pink paint anymore. I'm now going to take a small amount of that color mix, the tint, and I'm going to add some red to it. So now I'm going to start going darker in value. And this is going to create the shading. And as you know, when you add value, it adds depth and dimension to your artwork. So this is called our monochromatic color scheme. It's a range of value of one color. So we're just using the primary magenta with white, and then I'm mixing more of the red into the tint, as you can see here, to make it a little bit darker and a little bit darker to build up the value. So as the artist, I decided that the light source was going to be on the left-hand side, so that way the shading would be on the right-hand side. And as you can see, these pigments look amazing. This is really what I would call Gucci art supplies here with the golden fluid acrylics. They really are amazing, and they lay down flat on the canvas. I really cannot say enough about how awesome these are. For this color mix, I'm doing 1 part phthalo green with the blue shade phthalo green, and there's also the primary yellow. Then mixing white into it. So once again, this is a monochromatic color scheme. So I created the color green that I wanted, more of a yellow green. And then once again, I'm starting off with more of that 1:10 ratio, very light. Once again, we've increased the opacity because we added the white paint to it. And now that we've established that ground, we're going to go ahead once again with the green and start adding a little bit more green into the color mix. So this approach that we're taking today using the monochromatic color scheme is we're actually working in layers. So this first layer is about a 1:10 ratio. So 1 part color to 10 parts white to create a tint. And once again, because we've increased the opacity, it's creating a ground. So basically it's eliminating the background that's behind it, right? So we can't see that drip effect or the gray ground that's behind that. So I am mixing while the paint is still wet, so that lighter tint is actually still wet on my canvas, and that's going to allow me to blend the shading in. So I'll be creating a gradation of value at that point. Also going back and adding a little bit more white to my tint, adding some little highlights here. I'm also going to use this to create little highlights on the drips below. Then now I'm just going to kind of work on creating this color gradation. Okay, next up, I'm going back and adding some more white into my primary magenta tint. So I'm making it even lighter. So I'm trying to create a little bit smoother of a gradation of value. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and work on the ice cream cone now. So this is yellow ochre. And same thing as before. I'm just gonna do about 1 part yellow ochre to maybe 10 parts white. I'm going to establish that lighter value first. Once again, starting with that lighter value helps us out, eliminating that background color with the gray and the drips from part 1. Now I'm going to go in and, like as I did before, I'm going to increase the ratio. So now I'm adding more of the yellow ochre into the mix, and I'm slowly building up my value. So now I have burnt sienna. I'm going to add a little bit of burnt sienna into that color mix. That's going to darken it up. This is going to be on the right-hand side of the ice cream cone. Once again, the light source is on the left, so the shading is going to be on the right, and underneath those little scoops of ice cream. I'm going to let this dry first before I go over the top of it with the Posca paint markers here in a second. With the phthalo green, I'm going to go in and add a little bit more value. I'm going to blend that in as well. This is just a white Posca paint marker, painting in the highlights. So to do these lines across the ice cream cone, that's ivory, which is actually light yellow. And then this is brown. So light yellow and brown. So if you don't have Posca paint markers, you'd want to mix light yellow and brown to achieve that same effect. For the eyes, I'm using ultramarine blue and titanium white. Once again, starting off with a lighter value first and then building up the value just by adding a little bit more blue. Went back in with a little bit more white to lighten up the tinted areas. I'm going to use coral pink, red, and white to color in this cherry. So I'm doing the coral pink also on the tongue. I'm using fuchsia for the shadow inside of the mouth. So even with these Posca paint markers, you can establish that same approach of starting with the lighter value first and working darker, or you could work it the opposite way around. You can also go from dark to light. Oftentimes with Poscas, I actually kind of go back and forth at times just to get the color gradations I'm looking for. I use them a little bit more in a painterly manner. I'm going to go in once again with the coral pink for the rosy cheeks. And with the Posca paint marker, I'm going to go ahead and establish a white outline. So one of the cool things about Posca paint markers is getting that hard edge brushwork, right? So most people can draw a line with a pencil, but for some reason when it comes to a paintbrush, they keep lifting it up, and having to reload it. Well, you don't have to reload a marker. So this makes the process a whole lot easier. So this is actually dark brown that I'm using. So I'm going to do the dark brown outline, and I'm just going to use a little bit of black around the cherry. It's also pretty cool to see how these golden acrylics look with the Posca paint markers. I'd have to say they don't clash at all. They actually go pretty well together. Here's a little artist tip: is get a circle template. This works out beautifully for these kawaii style eyes, especially with those 2 white dots on the inside as well. Really cleans up your shapes. And you can see how this outline really is bringing back that expression. It looks so cute. It's amazing how a few details can bring so much personality to the character. And for the last step today, we're going to add some sprinkles, once again using a monochromatic color scheme. So I'm going to establish a lighter value first. Then I'm going to use the white Posca paint marker to add a highlight on the left-hand side of all of these. So for yellow, I had ivory and yellow. For blue, I had light blue and dark blue. For red, I had coral pink and dark red. For green, I used robin green and emerald green. So in review, a monochromatic color scheme is a range of value of 1 color. And you can see how simplistic this approach is, but how dynamic the effect was. Well, I hope you enjoyed learning how to paint using a monochromatic color scheme and had fun experimenting with the different shades. And if you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell so you won't miss any of my upcoming tutorials.